Wisconsin is coming off of a very disappointing season in 2024. Will 2025 be better? We're going to give you a very early projected record for the Badgers and break down this 2025 schedule here in this video. Wisconsin's schedule was really tough in 2024, and in 2025, it might be even tougher. Here is that schedule, and we're going to break it down for you. First, let's look at the non-conference. They're going to play Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee, and they'll play on the road at Alabama. So, yeah, playing Alabama again this time on the road. Obviously going to be a very difficult matchup there. So let's look now at who they play home and away. In the Big Ten this year, they're going to play Maryland, Iowa, Ohio State, Washington, and Illinois at home. And then on the road, they'll play Michigan, Oregon, Indiana, and Minnesota. So you look at that home schedule. Maryland, very possible win you could get there. Maybe Washington, you could get a win there potentially. Iowa, Illinois are going to be tough, but playing them at home, I think, gives you a chance. Ohio State obviously going to be a very, very tough matchup. Then again, that road schedule, those are four really tough games. Michigan, Oregon, Indiana, Minnesota. It's tough to see Wisconsin really winning any of those games. Maybe Minnesota, depending on how good the Gophers are this year. But yeah, that is a very tough road schedule. So how does it change from last year? Well, they take off Nebraska, Northwestern, Penn State, Purdue, Rutgers, and USC. And then they add Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, and Washington. So I think it got tougher. I mean, yeah, you lose Penn State, that's good. USC, losing them, Nebraska, those are pretty good teams that you don't want to have to play. But again, when you look at who they add, Michigan's going to be really good this year. Ohio State's always really good. Then you've got Illinois and Indiana could be preseason top 25 teams. So yeah, the Big Ten schedule for me, it's going to be much tougher for Wisconsin. And like I said, you're going to have to play Alabama on the road this year. Very, very tough schedule. So they'll open up on a Thursday night against Miami of Ohio, August 28th. Then they play Middle Tennessee on September 6th at home. Then that road game against Alabama, September 13th. So first three games of the year, they're all non-conference games. They'll play those non-conference games, and then they will get into Big Ten conference play with Maryland on September 20th. Then they get their first bye week. Pretty good spot for it after, having that tough game against Bama and then one Big Ten game. Then they get into a very tough stretch, though. It's on the road at Michigan on October 4th, back home for Iowa on October 11th, home again for Ohio State on the 18th, and on the road at Oregon October 25th. That is a brutal stretch. Again, you're talking about Michigan and Oregon on the road. Very, very tough places to play. Good teams. Ohio State's obviously going to be really good. And then Iowa even is going to be tough. So that four-game stretch right there is by far, in my opinion, the toughest stretch of the season. And it's interesting the way this schedule sets up. They play four games. They get a bye week. They play four games. They get a bye week. They play four games. So the bye weeks do come right there. And, it's kind of an even split. And then after that second bye week, I think we'll know where Wisconsin is at this point. Let's say they lose to Alabama and they lose to Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon. They're sitting there with four losses. But if they can find a way to beat Iowa, beat Maryland, win those other non-conference games, they could be 4-4 going into this stretch. And these are games that'll be tough, but I wouldn't say they can't win any of these final four games. You've got Washington at home on November 8th, and then it's on the road at Indiana on the 15th. Back home for Illinois on the 22nd, and they close things out with Minnesota on the road November 29th. Again, you look at these games, Washington and Illinois, those are going to be good matchups, but Wisconsin gets them both at home. The question is going to be, can they go on the road and pull off a big win? Can they beat Indiana or can they beat Minnesota? That's going to be the challenge. But yeah, again, when you look at this schedule, just get into a bowl game, I think, would be a pretty successful season for Wisconsin. How does it stack up with the rest of the Big Ten? Let's take a look, and you can see they have the toughest conference record in all of the Big Ten. Their Big Ten opponents this year, last year they went 51-30 in the Big Ten, a 63% winning percentage. That is by far the toughest in the Big Ten. So you've got this really tough Big Ten conference schedule, and then you add in that road game at Alabama in the non-conference. Yeah, Wisconsin's going to have one of the toughest, if not the toughest schedules in all of college football in 2025. Wisconsin missed out on a bowl game in 2024. What's the projection going to look like in 2025? We will take a look. Again, a schedule that's going to be even tougher this year. These are the projections for the last 4 seasons that we've done, again, with our formula. In 2021, they were projected to go 8-4. They did go 8-4. In 22, projected to go 7-5. They went 6-6. In 23, projected to go 8-4. They went 7-5. And then last year, projected to go 7-5. They went 5-7. So again, in 21, it was right on the money. And then from the last 3 years, in 22 and 23, they were 1 game under the projection. And last year, 2 games under the projection. So that would tell me that, Wisconsin has been a bit of a disappointment the last 3 years. So let's see what this year gives us. And again, this is all based off of our tier rankings. This is a formula. It's a mathematical formula. There is no human element here, no predictions. We won't be doing predictions until, after spring ball and all of that. So let's jump right in. Again, here's the schedule. This is the scale that we'll be using. So 40 to 60, those are games that are, you really could go either way. And those are games where, so Wisconsin is a tier 4 team. So if they play another tier 4 team, it's going to be in that range. If they play a tier 5 team, it's going to be 61 to 70% if it's at home. But if that game is on the road, then that becomes a 50-50 game. So that's kind of the way this works. And, it's really just one, I would say, guaranteed win, Middle Tennessee on September 6th. You feel like that one, Wisconsin should be, 18, 20 plus point favorites. And then you got Miami of Ohio, a pretty good team out of the MAC. We're putting that one actually in the blue. I think Wisconsin will clearly be favored by a couple touchdowns, 14 to 17 points, maybe in that range. But still, it's week 1. It's a good team out of the MAC. I don't think that's a guaranteed win by any means. Wisconsin should win, but like I said, it wouldn't be a shocker if they were to get upset in that game. And then we go to, who do we have next? Well, we've got Maryland. So Maryland is in tier 5. Wisconsin, it's here above them. This game's at home. That's why this one is in the purple. So a 61 to 70% chance that Wisconsin wins this one, again, based off of our formula. And then we go to the other side. So 3 games where they'll be favored. They won't be clear favorites in any other games. There are some 50-50 games, which we'll get to. But going to the other side, I think you've got Oregon. This is a tier 1 team. This game is also on the road. That's why it is in the red. So Ohio State's also a tier 1 team, but that game's at home for Wisconsin. So it winds up in the same spot as Alabama, Michigan, and Indiana, tier 2 teams that will be on the road. So these are going to be very tough games for Wisconsin to win. Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana. If they don't win those 5 games, though, if they're able to win the rest of these games, there is a path for this team to get to 7-5 without pulling off any huge upsets. But I think it will take, at least one upset, and that's where we've got Illinois and Minnesota. Actually, 2 upsets it would take. Wisconsin, probably about a touchdown underdog in these 2 games. Minnesota on the road. This is a team that's a tier above Wisconsin. Illinois, a couple of tiers above Wisconsin, but this one's at home, so that helps. But again, these are games that'll be tough for the Badgers to win. If they're going to have a successful season, though, I think they have to win both of these games. If they're going to get to 7-5, or maybe even better than that, they have to win these 2 games, which again will be very tough. And then you've got Iowa and Washington. So these teams are, so Iowa's in tier 3, so they're a tier above Wisconsin, but it's at home for Wisconsin. That's why it's a 50-50 game. Washington in the same tier as Wisconsin. That's your one true 50-50 game, really a game that could go either way. So if they beat Miami, Ohio, they beat Middle Tennessee, they beat Maryland, and they win both of their 50-50 games, that still only puts them at 5-7, still missing out on a bowl game. So they're going to have to pull off the upset against Illinois and Minnesota, and again, take care of business in all of the rest of those games. That's their path to get to 6-6, but the odds would say that they're not going to get there, that they will not get to a bowl game. The projected record for Wisconsin is actually 5-7. So again, projection would tell us that they're going to win against Miami and Middle Tennessee, and basically they're not going to win against Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, or maybe they pull off one upset there and kind of split the other games. That's kind of the way this works out. And again, the math does come out to 5-7. So same record as last year. Another disappointing season. It is a brutal schedule, though. But you have to wonder, if they do go 5-7, will Luke Fickell still be the head coach at Wisconsin? What do you guys think about Wisconsin? Let me know down in the comments below. Give me your projections for this team. And we do have memberships now available. So if you'd like to help support the channel, if you'd like to become a member, you can find a link down in the description below, and it'll give you all the details on those perks. And again, to help support the channel, I greatly appreciate it. But if not, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.